Hello everybody, I just want to show you the model I put together in SolidWorks to try to emulate the design you gave me on Friday. And nice thing about SolidWorks is now we have it in a format we could actually make changes to this and get something that's a little bit more unique for your needs, or make the form a little bit different so it might look better. You know, it all depends on what you want to do with the model from this point on, or whether you want to make modifications to it all. So I'm going to show you the model from the very beginning, how I put this together, so you can perhaps direct me towards any modifications we might need to take, and gives you an opportunity to take this model too and send it off to your mold maker and get some feedback from him or her too as to what they think might need to get done to the model in order to make it good for plastic injection molding. So we're going to talk about the parting plane a little bit, and that 15-degree angle. All these things are modifiable in the model relatively quickly. So let me show you how the model was put together. So this is the paw. That's the top view. It looks very similar to the paw that you gave me on Friday. There might be some minor differences here and there because it couldn't exactly emulate everything that was there, but I think it's fairly reasonable. And you know, the side view of the paw is now that we have that parting plane, which goes down here right down the middle of it, of what would have been the old model, right where you have that inflection of that line over here, and I'll show you that in a little bit more detail in a bit. And I added that extra pad on the bottom so it actually has that 15-degree angle where it's tilted forward. So to be able to see all that, I'm going to go ahead and show all these, all this reference geometry that I have in here, including the sketches that put all this together. Oops, sometimes it gets away from me there. So at the very top, this is all part of modeling for change, or designing for change. We're going to start with the top sketch. I'm going to take my rollback bar and just roll all the way up to the top sketch and show you how I put this together. So I started with an image, put it on my desk, put a ruler next to that, you know, an architectural scale next to that, so we can actually get some lines in here that would roughly resemble what the model looks like. And if I go into the top sketch, right-click on that, go to the sketch in here, you can see that a lot of these curves in here, these are all curves rather than splines. They're regular arcs. They have very specific locations of the endpoints of these arcs, which make that line black, which means that line is fully defined, and it can be it can't be changed. It can't be really pulled out, but you can change these dimensions too in order to make that fit a little bit better. So if I want to make the model a little bit wider than what it was, maybe you want something that's 2 inches, or maybe 4 inches rather than 3.5 inches. It is right now. We can take that dimension and change that, and it'll change the whole model. So I use the top view to put that together, and then we have the right view over here too. So if I take the rollback bar and rebuild this, take that rollback bar and roll that down a little bit, we have something very similar with the right sketch too. So on the right sketch now I took the profile of what it looks like and actually put together a model that resembles what that might look like. This is a little bit different over here. I put that in here in order for us to put in some sort of a top in this that's going to be symmetrical, but that could be changed too. We can smooth out that line a little bit, these two curves in here. We could actually take that out and make that a little bit more smooth, but I kind of did that to convenience of the model, but stuff like this could be changed relatively quickly. So with the right sketch over here too, we can change some things in here too. So now we have the top plane. You can see the top plane over here, which is where that image exists. This is where the parting planes are going to be. So everything on the top can pop out of the mold. The top part of the mold, everything on the bottom can pop out of the bottom part of the mold. And you have a point of inflection in here where the curvature of the curve actually changes in here. So you have a vertical line in here. It's going to be tangent. This curve on top is going to be tangent to the curve on the bottom in order for it to make that pop out of the mold. So what we added down here is a little bit of a pad. So there is that 15-degree angle in here. You can see that this is that 15-degree angle if you want to change it to 10 degrees or 12 degrees. If you find out that's not quite working out on your walker that you have in there, we can change all these things. The 65-degree angle kind of defines the back over here, and that helps drive the model. So everything after that, this is all very much sketch generated. All these sketches drive all the features that exist after the model. So now we have a bunch of other things in here. We have another top plane in here which defines this ring up here. And then we have a top sketch that goes with that too, and some other things in here. So there's a lot of reference geometry that exists at the very top of our model in order to define some of the features that follow that. So now we're going to come down here to the first loft. So this is the surface loft, and what it is, it took a bunch of different profiles in here, following the contours and on that top sketch in here and actually put in that that first surface loft. So I'm going to take these images, I'm going to go and suppress them a little bit. Not a little bit, we're just going to go ahead and suppress them and kind of get them out of the way because we don't really need them. Once you get going on the model, you don't really need all these things. So what I did a bunch of surfacing tools. It's kind of like a very paper-thin feature that exists in SolidWorks. Allows you to put together an ergonomic form of a model like this relatively quickly rather than trying to deal with a solid model, as I mentioned on Saturday. But we can take that rollback bar and continue to roll that down. I put in the next toe in here. I call that toe 1. That's toe 2. This is the toe jam, the part that exists between the toes, for a lack of a better word. Then we knitted them all together, put in the back. I mirrored them over to the other side. I added the surface to the top, added the surface to the bottom, put in this hole in here. Once it was a solid model, put a hole in the bottom, put that screw in place. And you can see a little bit of the curvature, that little ball on the bottom. We can actually make changes to that too. So you can see that from the side. But now that the model's together, and now that we see that line, again, this is our parting plane in here. We have that extra material on the bottom. We have the mold part on the top. And you need to make sure you run this whole model by your mold guy to make sure it all works. And one last thing I want to show you is a section of that to show you that interior the interior elements of this. So we have the hole up here on the top where the walker legs are going to go inside. That could be deeper if we want to make that deeper. We have a hole in the bottom down here with the shaft for the screw in here. I just took the dimensions off the model that you gave me, and we can go ahead and make changes to that too if needed. I think because the model is a lot thicker than it was off the 3D printer that you gave me on Friday, this length in here is a lot longer than it was before. I think it's probably over an inch, inch and a half maybe. We could probably measure that too if we want to do that. You're going to need to consider getting a longer screw for that, which may not be a problem. So I can go ahead and measure between these two surfaces. It'll give me the the elements that we need. And we're going to go ahead and go to inches rather than millimeters in this. Yeah, so 1.25 inches. So that's the model. And let me show you what we can do in order to make changes to the model to make this work a little bit better for us. So now that we designed our model in SolidWorks, it gives us the capacity to make modifications to it. I designed it from a top-down approach where we can make changes to our primary sketches on the top, like the top sketch and the right sketch, make some dimensional changes in here too, and it changes the basic size and shape of the model. Now, some of these modifications could be done or be influenced by a number of different factors. One might be form. Maybe you want to exaggerate some of the features with the paw in here. Maybe make the toes a little bit bigger or longer or taller. Maybe make the model a little bit wider, longer or taller too, if you want to do that. And maybe you want something that's a little bit more proprietary and a little bit more stylish. You could do that too. Mechanics might be driven by mechanics. Maybe you find that maybe the angle is a little bit different than it should have been. We incorporated a 15-degree angle for for the paw to tilt forward to take into consideration a walker that you had. But maybe other walkers have a different angle, so that might be part of that. And you're going to get some mold, some feedback probably from your mold maker that maybe some minor changes that need to be made in order to make sure that the model exits the mold pretty quick and you don't get warpage or other elements that might come with that mold. Those changes are going to be in there too. So it could be form or it could be mechanical. But to make changes in here, I try to make it so you can make some changes to the basic size and shape of the model from the very top. So if we were to go to the top sketch, we can make changes up here too. I could probably take this half width dimension in here, maybe go up here to liters, maybe make that a full width. But we could take that dimension in here and change that. If you want it to be less than 3 inches or 3.5 or 3.75, we can make some of those changes. We might be able to make that like maybe 3.6. And if we do that, it's going to make the paw a little bit wider. But one thing to consider here too, because it is wider, I might make some changes to the, some of the form of the model that we may not want. So it's got this little dimple in here on the side, in regard to that second toe in here. We might have to make additional changes to the model in order to accommodate that. So maybe this 1.53, maybe we make that 1.6. That'll help mitigate some of that. So might be a little bit of massaging, change one dimension, but you might have to go back in here and change some of the other dimensions. And sometimes the model will probably break in such a manner that we might have to go back to some of the surface lofts and change some of the profiles for those lofts too. But the bottom line is we can make these modifications relatively quickly, some quicker than others. So something else to consider too, like maybe some of the mechanical changes in here. Maybe this 15-degree angle, we might want to make that maybe 10 degrees. Maybe you find that works a little bit better. By doing that, you can see how that changes in the bottom. Maybe 20 degrees in here, that might be going a little bit too far in the other direction. You can see how that changes in here too. Kind of took out some element in the bottom, that hole in the bottom. But Control Z will get this back there. And when it does change the model or break the model, it's just a matter of going into some of these features in this model and making changes in those features in order to get that updated. So those are the modifications that you can make to the model, and that's basically the model as a whole as it exists right now. So make sure you give me some feedback on that, and let me know how we're doing with this, and we'll take that next step. I have time a little bit later today I can devote to this, and later in the week too, if necessary.